Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to vermontitude.com, reformer.com, brattleboro.tv, and locally on Comcast Channel 1078. We come to you from our studios at the Innovation Box on Landmark Hill. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I cover the topics that are of concern to Windham County and the towns that reside within its borders. Joining us today, hoping to earn a one-year seat on the Brattleboro Select Board, is Cristina Shay-Onye. Did I get it right?
Yes, Cristina Shay-Onye.
All right, Shay-Onye. All right. So, Cristina, let's start with the easiest question. What inspired you to run for the Brattleboro Select Board, and what qualities do you bring that you feel are like uniquely like this is why I'm here? Let's do this.
Right. I was inspired to run for Select Board because there were 3 seats up for election, and it felt like a lot of people in town wanted to have some new voices on the board, and it felt like a good time to throw my name in the hat.
Okay. All right. I think so. Let's drill right into it. If I'm understanding this correctly, you penned, you worked on, and you did a petition, right, to rescind the community conduct ordinance.
Yes.
Correct. So I'm going to guess that some of your motivation had to do with wanting a bigger voice in that. But let's talk about like why you did that. What were the things you saw? And I know you at the special RTM, you had a prepared speech, but let's just go back into it in case those folks haven't seen it.
Yeah, I thought you would not want to know how I feel about the ordinance because I feel like everybody already knows that. But I guess for people who missed it, I was really concerned about some of the parts of the ordinance, and it was really hard to follow the logic of the ordinance. I had watched the select board meeting where the select board passed the ordinance, and I heard the public outcry of all of the horrible things that are happening downtown, and then and I read the ordinance, and I also had sat down with the town manager. And yeah, this is the thing where it's live, so you can't be like,
Right.
Yeah. So I could see that the ordinance was in response to people talking about all these unsafe activities downtown, but the actual ordinance was just full of things that were already illegal, and if the things were so horrible, which they are, I'm not at all saying that there are not horrible things that we all have to deal with downtown that maybe we didn't have to a few years ago. But the ordinance was described as a softer way to deal with these issues, and the penalties were going to be less than how they already were in existing laws. So it didn't really make sense to me that if we were in such dire straits with our downtown safety, why is this ordinance the solution when it's being described as something that A, won't have to be used very often, and B, the plan is that unarmed officers are just going to go up to people and say, hey, can you not do this illegal thing? So it was hard to follow the logic of that. Like if we have major safety concerns downtown, then why is this the answer? Does that make sense?
I think it does. So let me just see if I can reframe it. So I guess if I'm understanding what you're saying, you're basically saying a thing didn't make sense. the softer approach thing didn't make sense to things that were already illegal. So if I'm switching hats and I'm saying, from one of the people who voted for it, I guess I would say that it just gave us this municipal level and permission to basically say, look, we don't want you doing that here. And can you not? And I think that was basically the simple way, and trying to represent an entire community, and not just this sort of, this loud faction of people that kind of were showing up, 100, 125 deep at like 4 or 5 select board meetings, people stopping me constantly. So it was sort of a curious thing that it came up. So apparently you weren't the only one feeling that way, because you've got over 400 signatures. So I think, is that a fair representation?
Yeah, I sat down with the police department and went through the ordinance with them and confirmed that everything on there was already illegal. And I asked the officers, well, how do you already address this illegal activity? And it already has penalties and citations involved. So it really just was hard to follow the logic of officers saying, hey, can you not do this illegal thing here? Can you go do this illegal thing outside of the downtown safety area? That a lot of residents got stuck on that. Like, what was the plan for when those illegal activities were just pushed outside of these downtown safety areas? So I think that we need to have more nuanced conversations and really look at the specifics of policy that is passed, and not fight against each other about the policy, but actually come together and make sure that it really is addressing our community's needs.
Okay. So last question about this, and then we can move on to other things. But a lot of the ordinance was accused of criminalizing poverty. Is that something that you share, that view?
It was not ever anything that I was worried about. I don't know. I was worried about the constitutionality of it. I was worried about the liability that it opened the town up to for making civil, a whole system of civil charges. I was worried about it going through the town manager's office. I was worried about a lot of things about it. And the criminalizing poverty was not on the list. It didn't make the list for me. Okay.
All right. Fair. That's a fair and truthful answer, because if it didn't, it didn't. All right. Let's talk about, like, if you have if the people of Brattleboro choose to select you to run for that, and you earn that 1-year seat, like, what's the biggest thing you want to kind of address?
I think the biggest thing that would feel the most impactful would be really strengthening the relationships between the residents of Brattleboro, the select board and the town government, and our state reps, and really trying to get funding from the state to address all of our crises. And as a resident who attends select board meetings, I've been frustrated with responses. If I go to the select board about an issue that is like, oh no, that's a state thing. And it's not like anyone on the select board is shutting it down. It's just that there's not those channels that are open for us to participate as residents. And I'd like to see more of that on the select board, just teaming up. We have such a great team of state reps and who are chairs of so many departments, and they're accessible, they're easy to talk to. And I know that the select board works with them, but I would just like to see all of that strengthened for residents, so that residents know what is going on the state level versus on the municipal level, and how they can get involved and not just come to the select board like what you have been dealing with this last year with people just coming as if the select board has a magic solution for our systemic crises.
Right.
And the select board, it only has its purview. But working together with the state legislators and residents who are really concerned with our town and the affordability, I think that finding more ways to raise funds other than property taxes and doing that through strengthening channels up to Montpelier and back again.
Okay. All right. Since you mentioned the bad word taxes, let's talk about that. Do you have any opinions on the current budget as proposed?
Well, I am sitting on the finance committee this year for the first time, and we do a deep dive into the town budget. So, but as far as opinions go, what I love about being on the finance committee is that we just talk numbers and analyze all of the finances and the opinions. It's a place where we don't necessarily need to have opinions. So, yeah.
Numbers are numbers.
Yeah, it's definitely not in a good spot. We can all agree on that, but it feels a little bit like the select board is like they have their parents' credit card and they're spending money and they're like, well, we need this. Well, we need this. Well, we need this. And it's like some of the residents, I feel like they're the parents that are like, oh, well, do we need that? Because we can't afford that. So even though it feels like we need all these things, there's a difference between what we feel like we need and what we can actually afford.
Okay. So let's off that, do you have an idea about like what we don't need and what we do need?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's what we need is not the same as what we can afford. Right. So I'm not saying that we don't need all of those things that you guys approved to pay for.
Okay. But
yeah, how do we figure, what happens when we pay for things that we can't afford? There has to be some kind of compromise, or like maybe we can we'll add that next year. I think that's where long-term planning comes in, where if you looked out 5 years, it would be a more slower rollout of things. So maybe we'll add this next year and then we'll add that next year, but to not have a 5-year plan and to add expenses mid-fiscal year, as was done this summer, it might be addressing one crisis, but it's creating another, So I think that there is no quick and easy answer. It's just process.
Right.
And really weighing out those implications of our choices.
Okay. Christina, so we'll close this out, but I want to give you kind of the final word, and you can talk directly to the Brattleboro voter and you can tell them, and I know that we had this conversation a little bit before, and it's the one thing that you said you're not really comfortable doing, but tell people why they should vote for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was saying I wasn't very comfortable doing it because I do think I have the skills that are necessary to be a leader in a decision-making body. I'm not so sure how my skills are at campaigning. That's the part that is definitely the toughest for me. But I understand you have to do this part to win a seat on the select board. But I've found that I am able to, maybe not this morning, but I'm able to communicate clearly usually. And I really do love working with people who I don't necessarily agree with. I think it makes for stronger decision making and stronger policy. And I love figuring things out. I love with other humans, sitting down at a table and digging into data and and zooming into specifics while keeping the big picture in mind. Those are just things that I actually really enjoy. And I'm a town government nerd, so I'm going to be at the select board meetings, reading all the information, doing all of this anyway, like I have been doing. So my plan is to just keep doing it, but I would actually like a vote.
Okay, fair enough. Cristina, thank you for jumping on Vermontitude today. Good luck with your campaign.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your service on the select board.
Thank you.